Welcome to Leading with Curiosity. Command and control leadership is dead. We interview leaders, entrepreneurs, and executive coaches challenging old paradigms and fostering cutting-edge leadership. Here's your host, certified executive coach, Nate Leslie.
Hey, curious listeners. Welcome to Leading with Curiosity. I can honestly say the conversation that you're about to hear could have gone on for hours. It's one of the most natural conversations I've had as the host of this podcast. Shawna Schuh is a very experienced executive coach and public speaker with a master's certificate in Neuro-Linguistic Programming. We explored using animals as a metaphor for the human curiosity. We explored that neuro-linguistic programming, the curiosity of leaders. I think curiosity comes up a number of times. Just a great conversation. I learned so much. I'm going to be following her, just a real curious leader with a very well-crafted position on what it takes in the modern world to be a really effective leader. Enjoy. Shawna Schuh, welcome to Leading with Curiosity.
Well, I'm curious about it. So yay, here I am.
It's great. It's really great to have you here. I want to jump right into your coaching background because it's going to be connected to, a leader's journey and learning, etc. So my first question right off the hop is, what do you want to share about that journey of Strategic Coach, the organization that's based here in Canada that brought you to my fine city of Vancouver, Canada?
Well, thank you. I guess the story behind the story is always, is a leader a seeker? And I think maybe that's the first thing for one of your listeners to ask themselves. Am I just a leader? Not just. Am I a leader or am I a seeker leader? And I think as a person who is a coach, but also a leader, if we're not seeking or delving into additional education or getting coached ourselves. So I uncovered, or somebody had told me about the element of strategic coach, and you have to actually make a certain level of income. I think it's $250,000. And there's different levels before you can go in and actually belong to this. And it was brilliant. It gave me an opportunity to get coached for my own coaching business. So I did that for about 4 years, where you're continuously learning. And I would go up to Vancouver, which is a gorgeous city, 4 times a year. And I loved it, adored it. And then I continued to educate myself in other ways as well.
I just was helping, I work alongside the Roy Group, a group out of Victoria, British Columbia. And this morning, as part of our facilitation, I got to coach with one of my colleagues observing. And in front of the group, she was able to debrief the experience with me. And I had to tell her after, sorry, Donna, I put my hand up every time to be the coach because I just look forward to also to this feedback that you can give me of having someone there to watch me coach. It just came up for me as I hear you, as we coach, being coached as well, but just the whole process, there's that saying, don't trust a coach who doesn't have a coach, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and also that whole idea of it. I mean, the nugget again for me is always, what are we learning? What are we learning? And this is your podcast. It's about curiosity.
Yeah.
And the minute I think I know everything there is to know, then I'm dead in the water.
Yeah.
My dad used to say, the more that I know, the more I know I don't know.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, yes. I interviewed someone a couple of weeks ago that will be in an upcoming podcast around wisdom, and that the moment we admit that as humans we know almost nothing about anything, it's so freeing. Yeah.
Yes. Although on the other hand, we're talking about leaders here. That's who's listening. And when you and I are even talking, how much prep do you do? And if you know your gig, if you actually have that innate knowledge, like I have skills, right? You have skills. So we can depend on those skills as well.
Yes.
Something that we've done a long time, or like my dad. And the second thing, he was a builder, and he was a master builder. And I would watch him put nails in and a wall or whatever. And he was masterful at it, tap, drive, tap, drive. And that's because it was innate. It was such in his bones that he really didn't need more education on that. Now, maybe as he developed, he would come up with an even more streamlined way to do it, which is the other curiosity piece. How do I take time off of something? But when I look at the concept of hammering a nail, I get it clearly, but you don't want to watch me do it.
Yeah.
I'm bending the nail, I'm hitting the wall, I'm whacking my thumb. So there is partly this innate skill that we have acquired as leaders, people listening. And so there are certain things that maybe I'm just tweaking. And I think the more that we get expert at something, then the curiosity, your piece comes up where what would make this even better? Or what am I not thinking that might be of value? The questions shift as we get more expert, I believe.
Right. As the skill set increases, it's small refinements and a constant, it's a loop, right? These moments of performance that we can continually be curious about.
Yes.
Doing differently as we move forward to get another crack at it.
Absolutely.
I'm going to hang a lot of this conversation around your first nugget, which is a leader, a seeker. So I'm going to come back to it, but let's just pull back for a second and tell us a little bit about you are where you are and what you're up to.
Well, I live in rural Western Oregon. I live on 20 acres at the top of what I affectionately call Mud Hill. As if you know anything about Western Oregon, it rains quite a bit here. And that's why I say my hair is rust colored rather than red, because I'm a native. And I use a lot of animal analogies in my coaching because, number one, other species teach us a great deal. And I think that when we're connected to the world as a whole, that the world is living with animals more than they've ever lived. We're also aware of the wild animals and are encroaching on their habitat. And so as leaders, all of this helps us become even stronger. And I think from my standpoint, living in the country, I was raised on what I considered a gentleman's farm. And then I laugh because I went on the road and traveled all over the United States, the Caribbean. I went to Europe. I traveled without coming home for 5 years. And I thought Oregon was such a backward place to live. And of course, now I live in Oregon and I live on 20 acres. So I didn't move up. I just moved further out.
Yeah.
And isn't that the way many of our lives are circular that way? We start one place and then what is it, that wonderful quote, you end up coming back to the place you began, only knowing yourself or knowing it for the very first time. And I think that that's also a leader's journey where we already have it innately in us. And I'm of a belief that everyone is a leader. There are certain people who step up to be maybe a bigger leader, but the first person we must lead is ourselves.
Once we grasp ourselves,
yes,
then we can grasp what it is that we're doing and then get a team behind us. But without the self part, it falls really short really quickly.
Very quickly. And that's the other reason to have animals. Like a person becomes really a leader the minute they get anything they must care for, a dog or a cat or a fish. So even a 6-year-old can be a leader in this. And I think that's another reason to have other species in your life is because it teaches us responsibility and accountability. And ultimately what leaders use the most is that empathy and compassion.
What are the animals that come to mind for you that are the most curious seekers?
Well, most animals are. I mean, immediately a raccoon came to mind because they're all, they're all about it. But there's very rarely, even if you're on a horse, the horse is a flight animal. Fight or flight, of course, we've heard, and an animal, a horse will run from danger. But if they're very intelligent and they want to know what's there. They're sniffing you or they're trying to figure you out. And of course they can smell the heightened senses that animals have because they do not communicate verbally. Well, they can communicate verbally, but not like we do. And so they're always seeking what's behind that, or is there danger in the air? And I think it's great for us to listen to too, instead of just bumbling along inside a meeting, to just be curious or to have an intent.
As not the largest cat in the jungle, we as humans are also hyper aware of everything that's around us. And when we ignore that or don't be curious about what's around us, we can get ourselves into a bit of trouble, in particular as a leader.
Yes, we can.
Yeah.
And that's the problem, if we're oblivious. So it's stopping and taking note. And then another nugget to look before you have a conversation as a leader, or before you have a meeting as a leader, or before you do an exchange, to really stop for 1 second and ask yourself, what's my intent here? Because that question for a leader is pivotal to the result that you will seek. Like, we're having a meeting and I'll ask my coaching clients, I'll say, so tell me what your goal is. Well, it's a sales meeting. We always have this meeting. Yeah, I know, but what's the end result? Well, to check up. Well, is there a better way to check up with people? You could probably do that through email. Or I want to share information. Is that the best way to share information? Yeah. And so those are both no, there's better ways. Yeah. So then you stop and say, what really is your intent? Gosh, what a gift that is when we say it's to gauge the excitement in the room. It's for us to join together with the energy that we can't get any other way. Now we're going to have a different meeting.
Yeah. Yeah. I find myself asking this question quite often with clients who are preparing for something. How do you want them to feel at the end of that exchange with you?
And it's a beautiful way to ask. And I think it's great for you, Nate, because otherwise people just barrel through. And guess what? I think most of us as humans are thinking, we're going to conduct a meeting, we're leading it, or we're speaking at it. And here's our biggest thing. I hope I don't foul up. Right. Or my God, please don't let me make a fool of myself. Or, oh, I hope I know what I'm talking about. And we're so consumed with our performance that we lose the fact that we're gathering with a group of people who they really just want us to succeed. And there's nobody sitting in an audience or a meeting anywhere and thinks to themselves, God, I hope I get bored today. None, not a one. So they're actually rooting for you to be interesting or intriguing or give them something that they couldn't have gotten through an email.
Yes.
So think about that for a minute. What can you give them that they could not get in any other way? Now you're going to have a darn good meeting. You're going to have a darn good presentation.
It's shifted from what is all this information that I can pass on, that I need to prepare, that I need to show that I know my stuff, to we want to be clear. We want to be motivated. We want to feel connected. We want to feel empowered. We want to feel supported, whatever how you want them to feel at the end of that is. That needs to guide everything. Yeah.
Yes. It shifts from how am I going to do? What am I going to say? How am I going to lead, to us, we, they.
Yeah. Yes.
It's about the audience. And I think many presenters and leaders get this deeply wrong.
So back then to leader as seeker, and maybe we can segue this into your master's certificate in Neuro-Linguistic Programming. What is it about old behaviors or the way people think things need to be done that is really being challenged as our world of coaching and asking these questions and being curious starts to find the roots that it should have always had in leadership? So let me back that up in a more concise question, which is, tell me about neuro-linguistic programming and the habits and behaviors that people what it is and how it impacts people as a leader. Is that fair?
Yes, very fair. And many people do not know what neuro-linguistic programming is. And I think it's esoteric in a way. And it's also ever changing, which is what I dig so much about it. So the three elements are neurology, how our brains are firing. And what's exciting and intriguing is never before have we had the kind of technology to find out how neural pathways are formed inside our brains. That if you actually look under a microscope, when you learn something new, there's a little neural pathway and they're all firing up like little Christmas tree lights. But here's the thing that they're uncovering. When you learn something new, whether it be through coaching or whether it be a software program, and you don't follow it up with more education around it or consistent work on it, the neural pathway breaks apart. which is why you learn something, you think you've got it, but if you don't do it for a couple of weeks, you go back and you go, how do you turn this thing on? You just, it goes away from you, and it has nothing to do with your age. It doesn't have anything to do with your abilities or that you're getting older. It has to do with, did you reinforce the pathway? And that's the neurology piece of it. It's fascinating. Mm-hmm. So many of my coaching clients will say, oh my gosh, we already learned this. Well, we're going to learn it in an even heightened way. We're going to become more masterful. It's like the hammer and the nail. You know, you kind of got the concept, but now we're going to become more masterful at it. So that's one piece of it, is the way our brains fire and how we learn. The second piece of it, which is so intriguing, is the language. And people, I'm people's word watcher. I'm picking up on what people are laying down. Where are the fears coming out? Where are the limiting beliefs coming out? And what I have found to be interesting is people say, well, you don't like that word. It's not the word. It's I'm catching the intent behind the word. Mm-hmm. So people who tell the most instead of asking, or people who sell, or there is so many things about the words, the word usage. And it's even around ourselves. Like when we say to ourselves, oh, I'm so tired, we become more and more tired. And all we have to do is shift the intent to, my body could use some rest. And suddenly our body goes, that's right, that's right. But if we say, I'm so tired, then we just get tireder. So it's not even the words, it's the intent behind the words, which is why it's such a fascinating study. And lastly, I think to answer the question you really were putting out there, is the programming. That we as human beings are very programmed. Now, many of our programs are wonderful. Like I live in America, we drive on the right side of the road. Everyone drives on the right side of the road. We all have the same rules. It's a good program. Because if we decided to drive on the other side of the road, there could be some, massive destruction there. We are also told about certain ways. There's certain things that we learn, especially with technology, that there's a process. We must do it this way. If you're in a business that has compliance, there are certain processes and programs we're in that help us. Mm-hmm. But then there's programs that we do not need, that we were given at a young age. Like my mother gave me the program that I should eat everything on my plate. This is not a good program. I'm not hungry, and I, darn it, have to finish that plate. So my job as a coach is to catch your words and your programs so that we can break that pattern, so that we can ask the kind of questions that curiosity would bring forth to say, is that serving me? And most of the time it is not. Did that explain it well?
Yeah, that is really helpful. And this idea of the neural pathways and lighting up new pathways and then reinforcing it, I have to admit, I was thinking of Chevy Chase in Christmas Vacation when he's trying to light the Christmas, all the trees on the house, that where is it broken? I know the path is there, but I need to make that connection and then reinforce it and make sure that it's solid so that the lights stay lit, or that we can get that electricity to the new pathways.
Absolutely.
And then reinforce, right? Yeah, that is really helpful. You used the word expert earlier, and I'm connected to a conviction that's useful in coaching, that there are no experts, just people in practice moving. We're moving towards mastery of something. And if we think we're there, I spent 20 years in sport development thinking I was the hockey coach expert. Yeah, I was the professional player. I had all the answers. Oh my goodness, what stress that brings, and what narrow-mindedness that can bring in terms of professional development. What if I accepted that there is no finish line? The journey is the thing. All of the cliches that we're on a journey as coaches, as leaders, and that we're simply in practice moving towards this ever-changing
I love it.
Target.
And I would also say, though, and when you get to a certain level where you've experienced a lot, helped a lot, done the work, that's when you can be the most creative or the most curious, because you have the neural pathways already laid out, that you understand that most people follow this process, or that in general, there's not that much new in the world. Now, there's new ways to think about it, and there's nuances, and each person is so creative. However, most humans are looking towards love, or they're dealing in fear. Now, there's millions of ways probably to look at it and say, how do we address those issues? However, and that's the curiosity piece, but my expertise lets me hold that everything inside my body, everything inside my mind, my psyche, my spirit, my soul will gather together if I want to help someone to like produce answers I didn't even know I had in me. Mm. And that's where the expertise comes in.
Yes.
I believe we must have expertise. We must study continuously, be curious, read, learn something new. And then I feel that it's all inside internally. And right when I need it, people go, well, do you write all that down? Do you have prepared? If I understand my intent, then you'll ask a question and, it'll all come up.
Yeah.
And I think that's where it's vitally important to continue the quest.
Yes. Oh, yes, absolutely. Lifelong learner is one of my strongest values. And it's actually the permission that once you get to that, what you thought was a finish line, you're actually now, you are hardwired differently, right? New neural pathways.
Yes.
You're actually a newer version of yourself at that finish line, and it's no longer the appropriate finish line, and you can keep nudging it along.
Agreed.
Right. Yeah.
Agreed. It's everything we step up to. I earned my certified speaking professional. It's the highest earned designation in the speaking world. And you have to do 250 presentations to over 100 different clients. You have to make a certain amount of money. And to me, it's the beginning piece.
Yes.
It's like, oh, now I have enough expertise to really be that new learner, that I've got all this down so that I can really riff. I can really play. It's like a musician who learns all of the scales over and over again, because it's after they have that body of knowledge that they can riff.
Yes, there is no going off script at that point. The script is quite, the page is quite open to put on it what it needs in the moment. What the audience,
but they've got to do that work.
Yeah,
and that's where we start at the beginning, and we go through the process of what's happening and what people are learning at the time. And that's why I love coaching so much. Is it constantly evolves, but it has everything to do with who you're coaching, which is kind of a bias I have. I'm assuming because of curiosity. You can't, it's not really teachable. You must experience it.
Yes.
And it's the same with neuro-linguistic programming. I had read a book about it beforehand and didn't get it at all because it's so experiential.
Yeah. We were using animals as metaphors earlier, but the speaker is a good metaphor too, in terms of a leader's journey from someone who is scared of public speaking and reading off the page and everyone in the room knows it and just wants it to be over. Two, I've done so much of this that the foundation is there, that this is going to come naturally. The science is having the script written, and the art is knowing when and how to deviate from it and put all the threads together.
That was well said. It was so well said. And then within that, having the script, knowing when to deviate, but truly the intent to give the audience what they need.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So if you are actually paying attention to the people right in front of you and realize they're not looking at you like they're getting it, go off, do a different story, bring it back to the audience, the audience, the audience.
Yeah. Back to my sport coaching world, a mentor of mine, I said to him after about 15 years of coaching hundreds and hundreds, maybe thousands of practices a year, I said, Glenn, don't you think by now that I should just have like one template that just works and I know how to do it, every time? And he said, no, because you know it so well that you know when it's not the right fit, and you know that you must deviate from it in order to give the audience, the athletes, the best of yourself. So there is no step 1 to 10 program here.
Agreed.
They are entering the audience at different points with an infinite number of experiences or lack of experience that has influenced how they're showing up. And we, as the one moving towards mastery, needs to be able to adapt and accommodate and meet them where they're at, right?
From presenting to the leaders that are listening, the leadership you do one-on-one.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, one of the reasons I love coaching so much is it's ever changing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that leaders that understand that, they do better with their teams if they just understand that their body of work will help them ask the right questions, which is what I believe a true leader does best, is ask questions.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Shawna, we need to end it somewhere. And we just tied a nice bow around a little 25-minute conversation that could go hours.
Yes.
You're on the list, like many other guests, that need to come back another
good.
time. And I just so appreciated this conversation. And seeker is a new word in my vernacular that I've really appreciated. Where can people find you, connect with you? What would you like them to know?
I do everything off my website, which is shawnaschuh.com. And the challenge is only how to spell it.
Okay.
So it's Shawna, Shawna. And then my last name, even though it's pronounced like the one on your foot, is spelled SCHUH.com. And when they go there, there's a downloadable book that they can get free about their fears, the leadership fears, and how they can surpass them. There is also a link to be able to schedule a call with me. And it's a complimentary call that I do for two reasons. Number one, I just am a servant. That's what I am. And even with my coaching clients, I am here to serve them. And it also gives me a key into what's going on in the world. So I like to give away little, just 30-minute segments where people can actually connect with me one-on-one if they're interested.
That's a great gift. Thank you, Shawna. And for the linguistically aware in the group, Schuh is just how you spell it, German for shoe. So
it is. Yes. Good for you. It is. Yes.
Thanks for your time, Shawna.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to Leading with Curiosity. Please share, follow, and rate the show so that other leaders can make positive change in the world. Connect with Nate at nateleslie.ca. And remember, the brain behaves very differently when encouraged to think rather than told to listen.